Stephanie Satie, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm sitting in my apartment, and I now know every doorknob and crease in the rug, and my cats and I are just becoming like brothers right now.
Yes, the cats and I, and the dog, and my husband to some extent also, and I'm crazy. I mean, I'm fine, but I'm crazy because I don't remember if I have sprayed the doorknob or if I've touched something that the mailman came in. I mean, it's really... And my husband is going off to a non-essential doctor's appointment that he had, and the doctor is going to be there, and I'm afraid I'm going to consider him contaminated when he comes home.
I completely understand that. We went to the grocery store the other day, and you'd think it was an episode of Walking Dead. So
oh, I know.
I get it.
I know. I think the grocery store is the most stressful place to be. We're avoiding each other, we're darting around each other, and we consider everyone as possibly contaminated. And then if I see someone wearing a mask, because we have wider aisles than they have in New York, except at Trader Joe's, but when I see someone wearing a mask, I think you fucking better, excuse me, but you better be sick, you know?
Well, I'm not going to edit out that word. That's all part of the interview.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I completely get it. My wife won't let me go into grocery stores. I'm of that special demographic that if I get sick, I'm not coming back. So I have the fun of standing outside the grocery store. Now I understand exactly what every dog tied to every post feels like.
Oh God.
Okay.
Other
than this craziness, how are you doing?
Actually, I'm doing very well most of the time. I mean, it's almost a gift, a strange gift, to not have to be chasing every either self-imposed or other imposed obligation. I can do what I want when I want. Sometimes it's very difficult to write or something because I get marooned, down the rabbit hole of coronavirus.
Right.
And so I'll write about that a little bit. But I also, it reminds me of, we were in Paris last October, and it's a hotel we've stayed at 7 times, a sweet little hotel, and we were in the smallest double room because that's all that was left, and it was a garret, and I was so incredibly happy there. I mean, I'm always happy in Paris, but I was so happy there. Everything was confined. We didn't have any obligations except to go and see art and walk and beauty, and I'd come back and I'd check my email and, are there free tickets or cheap tickets at the Paris Opera, but the sense of just being in a smaller space with fewer acquisitions. All the clothes I had were just perfect, and they were few. So I feel like that now, and I hope that we can hold on to some of this afterwards, if this is an afterwards, because
there will be an afterwards for sure. There will be an afterwards. It's funny you echo what our mutual buddy Susan Merson basically said. She wrote at one point. She said, "Okay, well, this is the time to read. We're privileged. We can now read and think and just stop and even from our window smell the flowers."
That's right.
So you're right. Maybe
and I'm in touch with Susan. So yes, I think it is. I think it is a gift. But sometimes when I get that other thought that creeps in on T.S. Eliot's Cat's Paws, I think everything in the past was a dream. It was just a dream, and we have no idea. I mean, not that we ever have any idea really, but we think we do. And
what do you mean by dream?
That it's something that I don't even know if it happened. It's just a remembrance of things past that may not exist in the future. I'm always either planning, if I'm not planning a project or a booking or a show or writing something, I'm planning a trip. I mean, a sort of a central thing in my personality all my life since I was conscious of this at 4 was being an escapee. So I'm always planning an escape. I mean, not from people I love, with them, but I'm always planning a trip. And, you know, right now it looks like a neutron bomb. Yeah. You know, all the cities of the world.
Yes, completely.
So,
I'm of that certain age where I remember the good old days. When you talk about dream, that's the reason I ask. I'll drive down a familiar street to look for a particular store and it's gone, or I'll hear that my high school has closed down, or that this is no longer there. Oh, isn't that terrible? Oh.
It's terrible. And they only built it in, I think, 1960, and it was sort of this model of integration. It matched the neighborhood, and then by like 10 years later, it was a war zone, and then a few years ago, they closed it.
Right. Mine became a charter school, then it became nothing.
Right.
When you say about a dream, do you have that fear that we're going to step out of this whenever it ends, and we're going to say, well, now I need to, wait a minute, I can't do that. Well, now I need to, well, I don't want to do that. Do you think reality is just going to be a brand new thing?
I think it might be. And I don't know that I'm afraid of it, but I think it might be. I was in yoga class. My life is online now. My yoga teachers are teaching online, and my writing group is online. But I was in yoga the other morning, and the teacher we were just, relaxing, opening our collarbones and turning our head. And she said something to the effect of, let it go, let everything go. Let your former careers go. Mm-hmm. And she must have seen something because she started laughing and she said, Stephanie, I saw that. So I don't know if I don't think it was fear. I was startled. And then there was just this sort of letting go that for the first time in my life at that moment, it didn't, I considered the fact that it might not matter. I don't know. It was very strange. I mean, because I'm someone who carries all these things with me that I mean, I feel like those Jewish peddlers, from the last century.
The schmatterbarons, of course.
Right, and they would be carrying like pots and pans and this and that, and every single thing attached to me is my identity. And it was just sort of a relief. I plan to do what I do, but it was a relief to have a kind of falling away that I didn't have to be responsible for the pots and the pans and the, all the things that I have, because you never let go of you don't let go of anything.
No.
That you hold on to, that you say, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am, Anyway,
that's really brilliant, actually. I've been grasping at that myself. It's like we are not people. We are that jacket we wear. We are that ring. We are that business. We are that job. And,
that's right.
And we have none of it now. We have 4 walls. And so we now have to sit there and say, okay, who am I now?
That's right.
You know the movie Lifeboat. You know Alfred Hitchcock's movie Lifeboat.
Yes. Yes.
I suddenly can't remember her name. The famous actress, she used to go darling all the time. I can't remember her name all of a sudden.
I don't remember because I saw it so long ago.
Not Marlene Dietrich.
Not Marlene. Tallulah?
Tallulah Bankhead, thank you. Tallulah Bankhead, when the movie starts, she's in furs and diamonds with her typewriter and everything, and she's this amazing, reporter, and by the end of the movie, she's stripped of it all, and suddenly she's a better person.
Yeah.
So, and I guess you're more qualified than most, because the play for which I know you well from was about the children of the Holocaust.
Yeah, child survivors.
Right.
They were, yeah, silent witnesses. That's where we met.
Exactly. So you're a great one to ask. The 2 big questions. The one I ask everybody, I'll ask in a moment. But the one I ask you now: when we open the doors now, what do you, who understand such plights, what do you think we're going to be as people? When you're talking about things falling away, are we going to become those vagabonds in the Matrix, or are we going to become, are we going to be better? Are we going to say good morning more often than not?
Well, when I look at, I always think of myself as a sort of cowardly person, so I'm interested in brave people. And most of the survivors, the child survivors that I interviewed and that I've become friends with they allowed things to fall away, and they are remarkably generous human beings, loving human beings. In some ways, of course, marked by it, but they are remarkable people. I'm afraid that we have my friend just sent me an article by the wonderful Russian journalist Masha Gessen about fears of what we will become, what we will be used to, because as a country we've become so isolationist, and as people, as you noticed in the supermarket, well, your wife noticed in the supermarket, and I noticed, when we exchange a smile along the path in the park, it's wonderful, or we talk a little bit, but it doesn't happen much. We see each other as potential infectors, and I fear that we will, having known this, we may not go back into the world open and embracing. The flip side of that is that you can look at human nature like that. Did you ever read the book Alive about those? I think it was a soccer team or a polo team.
Oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Right, the plane
crash.
Yes,
up in the Andes between Chile and Argentina. And they resorted to cannibalism, anything to survive, and then. They were very young and privileged guys, but the minute they got out, and were given food, they gorged themselves. Some Holocaust people who were liberated also, but they just gorged themselves. They couldn't even, stop themselves. So I fear that our acquisitiveness and our, hunger for, be it either oil or, shopping online or this or that it will return tenfold or the same fold, which is bad enough.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
No, oh, well, there you go. I wonder, because there was one point not long ago I was taking out the garbage, for heaven's sake, and someone from my neighborhood who I've never spoken to or anything like that was walking past, and it was just in me, because I've been saying thank you to every delivery man or anything like that, or delivery person, just because they're the new soldiers these days. And when this person passed, I just had the compunction. I just said, "Hi, how are you?" And I've never spoken to them at all, and they were like, hey, how are you? And suddenly we had a moment of conversation, but then the irony, as I came closer simply to put my trash in the bin, they took like a little step back. And it was just a natural thing. And in me I thought, okay, which will end, the good morning or the taking the step back? So we're quite the quandary.
We are. I listened to an interview that you had done the other day, and you had said that the horror or the panic of taking out your garbage. But when you're in I think, are you in a house or an apartment?
I'm in an apartment.
You're in an apartment.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in New York, actually, tomorrow.
Oh.
I had two performances coming up at the Middletown Arts Center, but when Broadway closed down, the Middletown Arts Center couldn't be far behind.
Sure.
So it was all canceled, and we'll reschedule probably in the fall, but it might be later. But I'm kind of grateful. I always want to be in New York. I'm kind of grateful that I'm here in LA. And not necessarily where people are nicer. They usually just say hello. That's all. Yeah. But I think they're nicer in New York. But where there's many of the supermarkets big aisles. Of course, when I went in the first time to the nicest supermarkets, all the shelves were bare. It looked like Moscow in the 80s. I mean, it was just so incredibly bizarre, and not just toilet paper. I mean, there was one tiny can of beans, and there was nothing on the shelves. There was no bread, literally nothing, no eggs, no milk, no nothing. And this already was an entree into a world that I had read about, actually had seen, but never experienced. And I don't even know what my point was, where I was going with this, but where did we start?
It's an interesting thing. You sparked something because we were talking about interaction of being with people. You were going to be in New York. I have a colleague, Ilya Volek. He's a television actor, and he always plays the heavy. He always plays the Russian because he's Russian and he has an accent. And he put a picture up, and he's in California, and he put a picture up of a supermarket that had like 3 things there, and he just said, "What am I, in Moscow?"
Exactly. And I remember also when I was teaching ESL in the early '90s when that huge wave came from Russia, and that's what my first show, Refugees, was about. But there was a place in West Hollywood called La Brea Circus, and it was just a store. I mean, it was almost like a hardware store, but it was food, and it was anything you could imagine in no particular organization. And the Russians used to go there, and they would call it Soviet mentality, and they would buy anything because it might, in their mind, never appear again, just like in Russia.
Right.
And that's what we're like. Oh, God, there's a piece of fish left in the bin at Trader Joe's. I have to buy it.
It's again funny you say that. We're vegan, and all of a sudden, all the tofu is gone.
Right. It's a reliable form of protein.
And when I heard that, I was like, okay, we're in a new world. Let's finally talk about the new world that we're in. Now you do a lot of one-person shows. You hit history a great deal, so you understand the plight of people way back when, or as they say, back in the day. What's going to be the art world when this ends?
Well, I think it may start, at least here, because we have a lot of wonderful small theaters, some of which have gone under because of realtors, hiking up the rent. But I think that people are very hungry for this. Well, we'll always be hungry for the intimate theater experience where it's unlike anything else, where there are no distractions. You can't look at your phone. You can't pause it and go to the bathroom or go get something to eat. You want, and it's a shared experience and in an egalitarian space. And so I think those may be the earliest thing of people want, moving out into that. I mean, of course, people, especially in New York, are just hungry for theater all the time. So it's unimaginable to think that the theater won't survive and flourish again. If people are not afraid to be next to each other, and they may weigh it eventually and think, the danger's past, we can do this. But I think it's going to take a while. I think it's going to take putting a toe in the water and then a foot. Just as the consciousness of this whole event took hold on different people differently. I mean, I was going to the theater. I had bought theater tickets. I had theater tickets coming up. I was going to restaurants. And we had dinner with friends on a Monday night, I guess 2.5 weeks ago, and they said, we're not going to see you for a while now because we're not going out. And I thought, what? And then 2 days later, we were going to a restaurant with other friends, and one of those friends said, let's do takeout. I'm not going into a restaurant. So we did takeout, and that was it. I mean, we haven't eaten out since, well, of course, and then the restaurants closed a few days later. Sure. And then I got, scared of takeout, but everybody's doing it.
Do you think the intimate theaters will come back first? You know, here in New York, I don't have to tell you, we have, you know, Broadway is mammoth. Do you think we're going to see the off Broadway style wherever it is first? You think we're going to go for the intimate, the more reasonably priced, if you will, on all levels? You think that's going to be the forerunner?
Especially with the stock market going where it is, and if that's the price we have to pay to get rid of him, it's worth it. You know, but for me, maybe it's because that's small theaters are a big part of my world, especially here, and in a lot of places. You know, I think, of course, the big shows are going to come back, but, you know, those are enormous budgets. I mean, they're unimaginable budgets at this point. I was watching the other night, streaming, and I don't even know if you get this email, from the Royal Court, in London, and that's where so many great shows come from.
Oh, yeah.
And I was watching Cypress Avenue with Stephen Ray, which is an incredibly brilliant play, brilliantly acted in a small theater at the Royal Court. I don't know if it was the smaller theater, or even if not, it's small. And you felt like they were streaming it from a live performance that had taken place. You had this feeling that you were in this audience that was surrounding the actors, and it examines the that germ of hatred that turns into self-hatred, that turns outward against others, and where it can go. And it's a black comedy because they get you with comedy. But the point is that I felt for the first time this wonderful sense of relief because I felt like I was actually in an audience, in a theater again, and I thought, this has to be. I think this will be what people want. So, sure, I think that big theaters here, big theaters in New York, of course they'll come back. It's the lifeblood of the city. But I think the hunger and the need may be for smaller gatherings. That's just my instinct at this moment today. It may change tomorrow, but it leaves me, it actually makes me more hopeful.
I'm going to keep that with me because that makes me very hopeful as well.
Oh, good.
Stephanie, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, and as people say, may it be under happier circumstances next time.
Oh, God, yes, Jay. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I've listened to some of your interviews, and they're just so wonderful, and I'm so honored to be one of your interviewees.
Oh, please, the pleasure is all mine.
Thanks.
Thank you. Be well. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Ciao.